The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra, and I believe everyone has a story to tell. What's yours?
Deborah Monk, empowering you to find your creative voice.
Shelley Devlin, inspiring you to find your why. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be sharing tips on how to polish and edit your own manuscript. And what's great about that is that it kind of puts it all in your hands. We're going to talk about how to edit your manuscript in case you can't afford a professional editor, or if you can, but you want to get your manuscript in as good a shape as possible before you send it on its way. So we're going to start with Shelley, and Shelley, you're going to give us some of your tips and take us through how you edited some of your manuscripts.
So I have an editor, but I want to get my money's worth.
Right.
So I don't want to send her a rough first draft. I don't want to send her the throw up. I want to polish it up, find the little pearls of wisdom in there, neaten it up a little before I send it to her.
Because if you send the throw up, then there's a lot more time that the editor is going to have to take.
I mean, even if you polish it, it's still going to go back and forth a few times.
Yes.
So if it's rough, I mean, that's just endless,
And you want to use that resource, that editor, to the best of your ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what things can you do?
So ironically, I was working this weekend during the holiday weekend on doing some editing myself. And 3 out of 4 of our little tips, I think, work, right?
Okay.
Or my tips,
3 out of the
work. 3 out of 4, because the last one doesn't work so much for me.
Yeah.
But printing out your work, and that's what I did because I'm doing everything on the computer. So when you look at it in a different form, I've printed it out. I use a red pen. And then I go back through. So it's almost, when we write something, we read it so much that sometimes we aren't actually reading all of the words.
Yeah.
We're skimming across it. So when it's on the computer screen, that's one way. You're looking at it in a different form. When I printed it out and I'm reading it, and with my red pen, is really kind of fine-tuning before I send it to Dawn.
Okay.
My second thing is taking a break. So that is, I know Jonathan's got something to say about that, but I don't mean like a break like days. I mean like a break like minutes. Like take a walk.
Clarified that.
Thank you. Exactly. Take a walk through the garden. Just take a minute to shut your brain off with all the other things that it's thinking about, which usually aren't writing, laundry and dishes and what you have to do, your to-do list, right? Take a break, just shut it down, and then go back fresh.
To your point, your first point, printing your work out, it really allows you to read the work like it's somebody else's writing. And that's the key to get your brain to switch over into the editor mode.
Yes.
And I feel like then it's tangible too. So sometimes with a pen where you're physically doing the editing, that's a lot easier than on the screen.
And a red pen. Or a purple pen or a green pen.
I caution you about using the red pen because it's like yelling at yourself.
Yeah, but that's how I work. Like I need to yell at myself.
You have to read it later, so you're writing in red pen. You suck. It's just not.
Yeah. I don't want it sugar-coated, though.
You don't need a comma here.
Everything has exclamation points.
Your punctuation's horrible.
Well, that I'm going to let go. That I'm just talking about the words. I mean, there's different ways to edit here, right?
So Shelley just doesn't edit punctuation.
Right. There's no punctuation editing. ...
Minor detail.
I would not advise listeners to do that. You do need to take a look at your punctuation.
You do need to look at punctuation. Yeah. But I'm going to let you do that, Mandra. So you do that for me
yes.
on our writers group. You
I will
take care of
that.
all my punctuation.
Yep.
And then the other thing is reading it out loud. Because when we read it in our head, we skip over the words.
Yep.
So if we read it out loud, we're really going for word, and we're hearing what it says, which then turns into pages. When I did that this weekend, the first 65 pages.
You read 65 pages out loud?
Yeah.
Good for you.
I did.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And I found one little section that needed to be fleshed out. And so then I hand wrote, 3 pages to flesh out that little piece that I was like, oh, I skipped right over Anna Banana and Mama Lou. We don't even know who they are.
We don't.
And so then it was 3 pages to kind of flesh that out. So it was good reading it out loud.
So to your point of reading it out loud,
yes,
we've done that with each other.
Yes.
I've read some of Debbie's stuff out loud, and when Deb has heard it actually coming from another voice. That's been helpful.
Yes, because I hear where she puts the enunciation,
And the
it also where
pauses.
when she's reading it out loud and she kind of stumbles, like if it says the than and it should be
Yes.
that, or it just doesn't sound rhythmic. Her voice stumbles, then I know I need to work on the rhythm of that sentence.
Or hire someone who can read out loud better.
No, Amanda's really good at it.
She is
I'm
good
not
at it.
good at it.
She doesn't ask me to do it,
Yeah.
but she asks Andrew to do it. So, I mean, let's just clarify. She does pick the better reader
Shelley
out
and I-
louder.
I'm not good at it either.
Out louder. The out louder.
Well, if you don't have me,
Yes.
what you can do. No, I'm kidding.
My poor husband is going to be screwed after this because I'm going to make him read the first 65 pages out loud.
But
to me.
there's software that will do that for you as well. So
And-
if you don't have like an accountability partner or
Yes.
a group or someone who will, do that for you, there's a couple things like Natural Reader and I think a program called Ivana that can read text. So it could
Really?
yes.
The other thing I've done when it's been midnight
That's fun.
and I don't dare call Mandra,
yes.
I've read it onto my phone.
and then
I
listen to your voice
to it.
back.
Yes.
Oh.
Because I can hear once I can hear the same thing in my voice, I just don't sound as good.
That's awesome.
As lovely.
So read it out loud could be
Yes.
a
It's
few
huge.
different ways.
And
Yeah.
I will all these years that I've been writing, I've resisted it. It's funny. My
You
first
resist things?
Like technology?
Technology? Do I need to answer back all of those little notifications? Yes, Deb, you do.
no.
If she had it her way, the sink would still be one of those old-fashioned pumps that pulls it up
Oh.
out of the well.
I have one of those, Deb.
I'm sure you do. No. I like my sink. I like my plumbing.
All right, what else you
Okay,
got?
so there was
That
one
was a
more
good one.
tip that does not work for me.
Okay.
And it is pretend you're the intended audience. Because every time I read out loud to my intended audience
Of yourself.
of myself,
Yeah.
the devil on my shoulder goes, who the hell's going to want to read that anyways?
Shell.
I know. So
Well,
it doesn't
he
work
makes a
for
good
me.
point. But it's only because the book's never coming out because it takes you too long to get there.
Oh, no, it's coming. It's coming out.
He's just needling you as encouragement.
I know. That's good.
So that doesn't work because you don't think that it's good.
I think it's because you already know the story so well. You've lived it.
You guys
It
have
is you.
overlooked the obvious reason why it doesn't work for her.
What?
Oh.
She's never going to
Why?
be the audience.
Oh,
She's the star.
Oh.
The star doesn't pretend that they're the peasants.
The voice of God is
Wow.
on.
Wow. Okay, check. That does work for me.
No, it doesn't work for you, but you
Yeah.
know why.
Yes.
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 And the first one you said, go for a walk, take a short break, that does not work for me.
Really?
Oh, no. No.
It works for me, but I need a longer break.
Okay.
And then you'll go back and you'll read it and you'll say, wow, I read that. That was really, I wrote that. That was really good.
But when
or,
you say longer
whoa,
break,
I wrote that and that's really bad.
Mhm.
But
That
do
needs to
you-
get out.
what do you mean by longer break?
Even a couple days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I feel like it's really, you're looking at it with fresh eyes. A couple minutes, an hour, a walk in the garden, that's not long enough. That's long enough if I'm stuck, like kind of have a little writer's block, that
Yes.
works. But as
Yes.
far as editing, I need to let it kind of
And that works
for
if you
longer.
have a dedicated chunk of time.
Yeah.
Not if you're
Right.
trying to get your 30 minutes every day or your hour every day.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Right.
So
'Cause
in
now
that
you're
30 minutes, I can't
burning
walk
the
for
clock.
29?
No.
I
You
don't
cannot.
understand why I'm only getting 10 pages, 10 words a day.
10 words a day,
You're
that's
walking
awful.
29 of your 30.
So those were your,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I had a few more.
Okay.
One is to look at your overused words. So a lot of
Huge.
people use that a lot or often. Like I told him that I wanted to stay, where you could just say, I told him I wanted to stay.
Yep.
I'm a big that person. And apparently there's a word program for Macs that will do that for you as well.
Oh,
It'll
yeah, it's
look
in the
like you're
find button. It's in the edit. You go into find, and then you put the word in, and
Yeah.
then it'll find the next and the next. So then it highlights it, so you can see on page 1
how
you
many
have
times
8
you've
that's.
used that.
Yes.
You've used that.
Yes.
Right. There's also a word program I think called Scrivener or Scrivener.
Yep.
that-
Scribner.
okay, that does that as well.
Yep. I've heard. I
And
don't-
that way you can really look visually and see your overused words. And then you can decide whether you really need them or if you don't.
The other funny thing that will help you with is, you do have to describe your characters, what they look like, and you may not realize, oh, I told you she was blonde 7 times.
7 times,
But
yeah.
I didn't tell you anything else. Well,
Once
so then
was
go,
enough.
right. And
Yeah.
then in those other 7 places, use other ways to tell you what she looks
That's
like.
a good point.
Yep.
So look for those overused words. Something I didn't know at the beginning of all of this a couple years ago was the double spaces at the end of the sentences, because I was so used to just double space next sentence, and you don't need to do that anymore.
You don't. My editor told me.
I know.
And she said, could you really save me the trouble next time? It's actually for the formatter. I'm sorry. It wasn't my editor. It was my formatter. Yeah.
So that's just old school
I can't
typing
do it,
class
though.
where it's double space.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
Yep.
If you're like us, where we've been doing it for so long, I think for me, what I'm doing is I'm just typing it the way I want, and then I'm going back. I'm doing find and replace. Find all the double spaces and replace it with a single space, because I can't relearn typing.
Right.
Right.
It's so
because
automatic.
you're just going.
Yeah,
You're just
I'm
going.
fast.
Yeah.
Cut out, which we've talked about this, cutting out the ly words.
Yep.
So the adverbs, we've talked about this on another show, and replacing them with a stronger verb.
Right.
So instead of she ran quickly, she sprinted
raced.
or she raced,
Right.
and using just a strong verb. So whenever you see those ly words,
You're cheating. You're lazy.
yes.
Yeah.
Is there a better verb that you could use that would be even stronger?
Can you do the search for that too, Deb?
Well, you could search ly, but ly is going to show up in other words like only. But you could certainly do it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Or when you're doing a read out loud and you find yourself saying the ly words a lot, just highlight them and see if you can go back and find different ones. And the last one I had was getting rid of redundancies. So when you say things like the exact same thing, you could just say the same thing. Like if you say
Right, because exact and same are the same.
are the same. So
They're exactly the same.
yes, and less is more. So fewer words.
Well, doesn't that
tighter.
fall into your ly, using a stronger verb?
So
They're exactly the same.
Oh, because it's an ly word. It would
Yeah, if
show
you
up.
said exactly. But if
But
you
what
just
if it was
said
something else?
her shirt was the exact same thing as so-and-so's, you would just say it was the same shirt, or
Right.
you don't need both of those. And there were some other examples of that I can't
These
remember
bitches
right
have
now.
no. I have nothing. I have writer's block right
You
now.
started off really strong, though, with bitches.
I had a
I was like,
direction
whoa.
Expecting something. And it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Something shiny happened.
Maybe that was the editor in his head that said, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't call these women of the writer's block that word."
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think that was it.
No,
Was it?
that probably wasn't it, Deb.
I wasn't referring to the two of you. I was referring to
If you
the
said
people in
female
Mandra's
bitches,
story.
that would be
us.
redundant because,
Which one are you referring to then? You said you're not referring to the two of you. There are three
I
of
said
us.
I'm not referring to the three of you.
You said
I was
two.
referring
say
to.
You said two. It's on
I
tape.
was referring to
T-O.
The two of you.
the character in Mandra's story.
Whoa. Unfortunately, this is on tape. Anybody want to bet?
I want to hear what Deb has.
All right. So what I did was I did the mistakes that we make when we self-edit. So the first one that I came up with is we try to edit as we write. Huge mistake.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
So you're typing along, you're writing the scene. Let's say, the three girls were sitting at the at the table. Oh, I should use a better word than table. The three girls were sitting at the desk. Well, no, it shouldn't be girls, it should be women. The three women were sitting at the desk.
Oh, I see. Your brain is just
I don't do
swirling
that.
all over the place.
Oh, a lot of people do. And it
gotta,
really
like-
gets them
So
stuck.
they edit like there's as they're writing one sentence?
or a paragraph or anything.
You
They
gotta
can
just
get stuck
write.
on a word, right?
Yep.
You got to just write.
You got to just write.
So I think that's the first mistake.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They try to do everything at once. They try to do all of the things that we talked about here. They try to do it at the same time. Let me find all my ly words. Let me find all my exact words.
Okay.
Let me do. And so you pick a thing that you're going to work on for that day or that time frame and do that. Go through
Have
it
you
with them.
done that? Because I've thought about this. Like, I'm going to need to edit however many times. And the first time I go through, I'm going to look at, the ly words or the am I grounded? How many flippin' times are you going to read that whole thing? It's a lot. Do you do that?
Me?
Yeah.
No. Maybe I should.
Would you pick two of the four like Shelley and go for it?
I think I know.
Well, I mean, your program is going to check your spelling, right? And
Yeah,
then
we
you
didn't
could
even
do the
mention that
quick
thing.
search for the ly or the overused words.
True.
So it isn't going
That's
to take that
right.
long for those categories.
Yeah.
When I went through, it's more about adding color. So adding in
You are
a
such
little
a
bit of color.
hairdresser.
I know.
Yes.
I can't help it.
Yes.
I know.
Okay.
And
so
so
visual.
part of it is experience. In the beginning, you're going to have to do them all. But as you get better, some of them are just going to be automatic. I don't think I use adverbs. I probably, if I had to, I don't think so. And so the fact that I don't even think I use any of them means if I use a few, I don't care.
Right.
So,
gotcha.
Second mistake is they try to do everything at once. They try to put everything into that scene. So, okay, the three girls were sitting in the thing, but the husband was at the producer, and they're going to go out to dinner tonight. But then they're going to do. You try to put in too much information. You got to pick what you're writing.
Deb, you don't do that, do you?
I do that all the time. I do that.
So what is that? Is that sticking to the scene, to the theme?
As much as I hate to say, the words that are going to come out of my mouth actually right now make me feel sick to my stomach, but know what you're writing.
Know what you're writing.
Know what you're writing, yes.
Your direction, your message.
Yes. And that's why I make this mistake, because I don't know what I'm writing.
I feel like we've read something about tree roots with you that we were like,
I love
whoa,
that
where are
scene.
we going? I know you
Who
loved
cares?
it, but we didn't know where we were
Maybe
going.
Well, the
I'll
funny
submit
thing
that as a poem.
was she started us in a dentist chair having like a tooth work done, and then we're talking about
We're running out of time here.
Okay, sorry.
Deb does not want the hot
not
seat
my
today.
tree again. Not my tree.
Not my tree. Leave
You
my
guys
tree
were
alone.
nice enough to let me read it on the show once. At least I got to do something
We're very
with it.
kind.
And then I cut it.
Yeah.
Okay, so next thing is to cut the clutter. Cut the clutter. Here's an example. This sentence. In my opinion, I think it's best almost always, do your fine-tune editing when the manuscript or book is fully complete. 25 words. I think it's best to edit when your book is done.
So much better.
10, right.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, I think, well, if I'm talking about my opinion, I'm talking about
So that's kind of redundant.
It's totally redundant.
Right.
Do your fine-tune editing. You don't need fine-tune to describe editing. So
Just edit.
25 words cut down to 10. But more important than that is it's way more clear.
Right.
So it isn't, because a lot, we don't like to lose word count. Losing words is
Correct. I am with you right now with that.
Well, so she's thinking 25 is better than 10.
Count.
When it comes to words, less
But
is more.
sometimes isn't that connects with your voice too, Deb? Like I can hear you saying that first, like the first sentence was how you speak, and then the second sentence was cut down.
Well, clearly I should edit how I speak.
If you cut your words down really all the way down to the point where you're just getting that point across, just make the font bigger.
That doesn't help with
you
your
are
word
too
count.
far away to high five right now, but yes.
You're back to the number of pages, and who gives a shit about word count? You're being
Keep your
direct.
double spaces, make them 4, and the next thing you'll know, you'll have all your pages done.
Go up. Here's a little trick. You go up to 15 point, not 14, not 16.
Wow.
Do you adjust?
15.
Do you adjust the margins at all? Like maybe you have
I've done it.
3-inch margin,
I've
and
I've
Yeah.
done it.
yeah.
I love it.
Oh god.
All right. Next one, keep it simple. And here's an example specific to how to keep it simple. Metaphors. I love metaphors.
Yes.
Yes.
But I have a tendency
to use several.
Yes.
Yes.
So here's an example. I don't know how much we need beforehand, but the empty spaces in the puzzle are scabs I can't stop picking, nails I can't stop biting. From one angle, the spaces feel like potential. From another, they're yawning chasms screaming for me to do more. Empty puzzle, scabs I can't stop picking, nails I can't stop biting.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to
Now,
pick one.
I've edited this paragraph 1,000,000 times. And I know
And you like them all.
I do. I know you do. I really do. And so I know it's wrong and I know I should fix it. But so that's not keeping it simple. Either
right.
if I do love metaphors, but pick the one that's most accurate.
Because the problem is the reader then can't really get into any of them. Can't really like let any one of those sink in
Because they're imagining each of
three
them.
different things like nail biting and a puzzle and scabs. You're not really getting the. Do you know what I'm saying? You're not getting that imagery.
I totally do. And I know I'm wrong, but what I feel, and I know, you can think something and feel something. I feel like I'm giving a feeling. The empty spaces are pieces of a puzzle. So you see the empty hole, but then that hole becomes a scab that you can't stop picking, and you feel it.
That.
So, and then, and nails I can't stop biting. So I know.
It's too much.
It's too much.
for
I
the
know
reader.
it's too much.
So you
So
lose
keep
your
it
impact.
simple.
So
Right.
keep it
Yes.
simple.
And I would totally
Good
call
old
you guys
KISS,
on it.
KISS.
Yep. The next mistake I have is time away. And I don't even know what I meant.
Is that walking away from it, like what Shell said?
No. It's when the project is done.
Yeah.
Well, when the project is done, you have to put it away long enough, whatever that amount of time is, and it's going to be different for everybody, where you are not as emotionally attached to the story anymore, where you can read it with fresh eyes, where you're not knowing what's coming next. Because when you've been writing it and editing it, I know from the puzzle, we're going to go to the scabs, we're going to go to the nails. I don't need to read that to know it. Yeah. So I have to be away from it long enough that I can have that. And
fresh eyes.
It might be months. If you're talking about a full-length manuscript.
Sure.
And so then that goes to the next thing. Separate yourself from your work. When you guys, when you tell me that, I know you're right. It isn't about me. It's about the work. The work will be better if I cut those metaphors down. Right. So you're not attacking me. You're not telling me I'm bad. Right. We want this to be better, and that's how we do it. So
be the opposite of a baseball player. That guy wants to be the ball. You do not want to be the ball.
Do not want to be the ball. And there's no crying in baseball.
Yes.
Yep. There you go.
There's crying and writing, though.
There is crying and writing.
Lots of crying.
Lots of crying and writing.
And then my last one is, when you're done, let it go. Meaning you can always, I could still pick up my book and think, oh, I should have said this. I should have developed that better.
That's a good one.
When you're done, you're done. Let it be done and just do better next time.
All right. Nice. Good advice, Deb.
Thanks.
I like that. All right, ladies. Well, thank you very much for all those tips and tricks to getting our manuscript nice and polished before we get sent out to the editor. We'd like to thank you all. Or not. Or doing it yourself, right? Because you want to put out your best work. Be sure to check out the Writer's Block New Hampshire Facebook page and the Writer's Block podcast on your favorite podcast catcher. If you'd like to hear this again, you can head on over to the UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. That's UnitedPodcastNetwork.tv. Thank you for listening, and we hope to inspire and empower you to tell your own story.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.